In July 1969, Apollo 11 launched into space, and Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin successfully performed the first crewed lunar landing. Television images of the men taking humankind's very first steps on the moon's surface were broadcast into the homes of millions around the world. But many animals paved the way to this momentous occasion, and many furthered astronautical studies afterward. In the early days of rocket science, no one knew what the effects of weightlessness would be. Animals, mainly dogs, monkeys, and chimps, were used to test the safety and feasibility of launching a living being into space and bringing it back unharmed. Since then, animals have continued to play an important role in understanding the impact of microgravity on many biological functions. The first animal in space was launched in 1947, and perhaps surprisingly, it was the humble fruit fly. American scientists were trying to establish the impact that cosmic radiation might potentially have on astronauts in the future. They chose flies because they are genetically similar to humans. Incredibly, 32 monkeys and apes have been to space, including the rhesus macaque, pig-tailed monkey, cynomolgus monkey, squirrel-tailed monkey, and chimpanzee. The space race between the Soviet Union and the USA during the Cold War era was intense. The Sputnik 1 spacecraft by the Soviet Union was the first artificial satellite successfully placed in orbit around the Earth. Sputnik 1 was launched on October 4, 1957, and was an 83-kilogram beach ball-sized sphere that basically just emitted beeps as it circled Earth, although those beeps shocked the world. Soviet engineers planned Sputnik too hastily after Premier Nikita Khrushchev requested a flight to coincide with November 7, 1957, the 40th anniversary of Russia's Bolshevik Revolution. Using what they had learned from the unmanned and undogged Sputnik 1, and often working without blueprints, teams labored quickly to build a ship that included a pressurized compartment for a flying dog. The spacecraft was much larger and more elaborate than its predecessor. The spacecraft was 13 feet tall and 6.5 feet at its widest, and it weighed 508 kilograms. The spacecraft carried scientific instruments to measure solar radiation and cosmic rays, as well as a cabin for Laika that was equipped with a video camera. Laika was a young, part-Samoyed terrier found as a stray in Moscow. She was chosen as the Soviet scientists believed a homeless animal would be better equipped to endure the cold, hunger, and harsh conditions of space travel. In their training before the launch, the canine candidates were placed in a series of demanding endurance trials and medical examinations. Among other tests, scientists examined how the animals would cope in the distressingly cramped space capsule. Laika and two other dogs, Albina and Mushka, were placed in increasingly smaller cages over several weeks. With her calm temperament and grace under pressure, Laika was chosen. Laika's spacecraft, Sputnik 2, was fitted with a variety of innovative devices to keep her alive. There was an oxygen generator which absorbed carbon dioxide, a heat-activated fan to regulate the temperature, and the capsule was stocked with enough food to keep the dog alive for 7 days. Sputnik 2 was a suicide mission for the poor dog. The satellite was not designed to come safely back to Earth, and the Soviet space program didn't want to delay the launch. Telemetry data showed that Laika survived the launch. Decades later, several Russian sources revealed that Laika survived in orbit for 4 days and then died when the cabin overheated. According to NASA, the spacecraft may have overheated because the thermal control system didn't work properly and some insulation tore off due to an anomaly during the launch. Sputnik 2's batteries died on November 10, 1957, 3 days after its launch, and the spacecraft stopped beaming data home. With all systems dead, the spacecraft continued circling the Earth until April 14, 1958, left orbit and disintegrated on re-entering the Earth's atmosphere after 2,570 orbits and 162 days in space. In 2008, nearly 50 years after the historic flight, a monument to Laika was finally installed outside Star City, a military facility in Russia where she was trained for her trip. The statue resembles a rocket that merges into a hand, launching Laika into space.